Today's date is December 1st, 2018. Hello and welcome to another episode of Hit the Books Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Holcomb.
And I'm Emery Saunders.
And we're here to give you all the saucy deets on everything comics this week. For those of you unfamiliar with the show, this is your weekly comic book podcast where Emery and I, and perhaps a guest, go through the latest news, the new comic book releases from your local comic book shops.
Please support your local comic book shops.
And discuss some topics about the world of comic books for your amusement. If that sounds like a good time, be sure to hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel and rate well elsewhere. It really does help us out. You can always find us on YouTube, Stitcher, and iTunes, and be sure to check out our website, htbvids.com, where you can find links to all these things and plenty of other written content and lists. Now, this is a return to form for our podcast. We tried to get the first episode out there. We tested some new cameras, didn't work out very well. Some new software didn't work out very well.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you've noticed, if you're a longtime listener, we're in a new location.
Yeah.
We have a new setup. Obviously, we had to switch some things around and adjust to some new interfaces along the way. So this episode will not have a normal topic of the show at the end. Instead, we're going to focus on catching up on what we've missed and
Which
addressing
is a lot.
Yes, and then addressing what's you can look forward to going forward, and yeah, I think that covers everything.
Yeah, that just about does.
So if you're just joining us for the second season here, normal format of the show is just talk about what we've been reading, then jump into some news, knock out the news, and then give out a listing of all the new comics coming up to your local comic book shops this week, and discuss some topics at the end of the show there.
Yeah.
Which can be submitted to our Twitter or Facebook or our website or our email. You can find us on Twitter at HTBvids. You can find us on Facebook at /HitTheBooks. Yeah, I think that's everything.
Yeah. It's everything on us.
Yeah. So, look forward to more stuff coming in the future. We're obviously behind on a lot of reviews. We're behind on a lot of individual videos that we wanted to make. And obviously, it's been a while since our last episode, several months, basically the entire summer.
Yeah.
And most of the fall here. So, without further ado, Emery, what have you been reading?
I actually have been really busy.
Wow.
But I will say this. I caught up to issue 11 of Mr. Miracle, and I don't know if I want to read past this.
Wow. For those of you unfamiliar, Emery and I were very high on Mr. Miracle when it first came out.
Yeah.
And we followed it along for a long time there. Mitch Gerads is the artist, I believe. And
Yeah.
who's the
It was
writer?
Tom King.
It is Tom King. Tom King really got into comics pretty recently, the past few years here as a writer. He has, I believe, a CIA background. At what level and what his job was specifically. It could have been, paper pusher all the way up to full-blown agent. Who knows?
We definitely don't.
I'm sure that info's out there somewhere in the ether, but I'm not familiar myself. But he does have a government, service-based background, and from what I understand, writing was his passion, specifically comic writing. So he jumped in and he started his foray with a very controversial beginning. Grayson, which I was very much against because of the concept, not because of the writing. He actually wrote that very well. It was a really good book. I just thought they didn't need to put Dick Grayson in that role, and it was just kind of a gimmicky way of trying to prevent, fan outlash from killing Nightwing and the Forever Evil storyline. And basically giving themselves a way out.
Yeah.
That's how I interpreted it. But it was a good book. It had great art and had pretty good writing, and it really gave Tom King an avenue into further projects and deeper projects. Mr. Miracle was the latest greatest hit from him last year and into this year. And we really enjoyed it from the outset. So Why have you soured on it?
Well, to be perfectly honest, this entire time, I've been waiting for that defining hero moment, and it just doesn't seem like it's coming. It doesn't seem like Tom King's take on Scott Free has any plans of becoming anything other than this chronically depressed, constantly reflecting on their own PTSD character.
Which is on theme for Tom King as of recent.
It is
the Heroes in Crisis book and a few other books, which good concept to adjust to and use for your writing.
Yeah,
not sure it's being done the most appropriate way, but
yeah, I think there are limits to the effectiveness and the appeal of deconstructing a character. And deconstructing a character to the point where you are either delving a bit too deep on their personal issues or inventing all new ones for them to have to deal with. There are right and wrong ways to do that. At the very beginning of Mr. Miracle, they had done that the right way by shocking you with something that you didn't even know was an issue, which, much like the topic in question, suicide or suicide attempts, any person who looks at something like that from the outside in, it's shocking every time. Which that's the right way to hit someone over the head with that. But when it gets to issue 10 and you see that the neuroses isn't just a character affectation or a character issue that he has to deal with, this is something that you could feel seeping into the rest of the entire book. Is like the entire trajectory of the book seems like it's not just all of these characters having to deal with Scott's point of view, but it feels like the entire book becomes about how do we deal with Scott. And
now, if you watched a few of the episodes leading up to our hiatus there, you probably know that I was kind of souring on Mr. Miracle.
Yeah.
Even at that point.
Yeah, and, you had soured a few issues before I did.
Yeah, somewhere around issue 7 or 8, somewhere around there, I was starting to just lose interest.
Yeah.
And it's not because the concept wasn't interesting. I just felt it was getting very long in the tooth, and I felt it was becoming more of an artistic piece than an actual narrative piece that I could enjoy.
Yeah.
And not that that's a bad thing necessarily, but I just felt like the story wasn't progressing at all. And it was just kind of falling in love with itself, and its, mystique, I guess.
Right.
And that's, obviously it's not an indictment of Tom King or anything like that. They're obviously doing what they wanted to do. But I'm not sure this book needs to be 12 issues long. And
yeah,
I really, I don't know if they've finished their run yet because we've been kind of out of touch for a little bit, being both busy. But we did get pretty far before we had to take our hiatus there, and I just felt like it was not getting to any kind of conclusion. Like I felt like it was running and didn't know how to end.
I think the last issue's already come out. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah. And of course, if it hadn't come out, I wouldn't be surprised because any fan will know of that book. It was getting delayed every other month.
Yeah.
And, you'd have issue 6, and then 2 months, 3 months later, you'd finally have issue 7. And by then, most people have forgotten about your book and, dropped off, which, again, we talk about this all the time, especially in the first season there, about the organization of the industry where they have this month-to-month, survival-based economy. instead of just preparing the entire project and breaking it up into parts and then selling it after it's been completed.
Right.
And is full and coherent and, there isn't.
Yeah, there's nothing from the outside affecting the story as time goes on. It's like having a complete, thought out, already produced story before putting any of it to paper or establishing any of the art, I think is something that if they don't adopt that model soon, comics is slowly going to die.
And which it has been over several years. They get a boost in sales every time they try a reboot or something for a very short period of time, but then those typically go awry, and then all the sales start to drop off. I think a lot of it, I think they need to adopt more of a, TV show, maybe aspect to it. Maybe that's a bad example because some TV shows do go kind of, week to week and production and everything, but maybe more of a movie outlook where you have the movie prepared, it's completed, maybe you got to do some final tweaks, but then you release it, as a completed project instead of, just, pacing yourself month to month and hoping that you're not going to run into any hitches or delays or, personal problems that's going to delay the project or funding problems. Just pay for it from the get-go, maybe sign some kind of commission deal where, here's the down payment to do the project for the writer and the artist and the illustrator and, the letterists and all that thing. And then give them each a percentage of, the eventual proceeds. Based on how it performs, and have it split into, 12 or 8 or, 24 very clear and concise issues instead of, hoping that you're going to be able to fit this part of your narrative into the next issue, or that you're not going to have to stretch yourself when you realize, oh, maybe I didn't need a full 12-issue run to do this, that sort of thing. So I think it would be beneficial both for business and for the creators to just do that kind of model. And, I understand the fears that, maybe you'll invest in this project and then you'll find out, at the end, though, the writer or artist dropped off the face of the earth and just didn't ever get the final books out.
Right.
I would rather do maybe kind of the modern, book publisher model where you give, a half or 3/4 of the, payment for the project up front. They do the project, complete the project, and then they get the last fourth or the last half of the payment plus, a percentage commission based on sales. I think that would be a much more competent business model, and I think it would allow the comic industry not only to have better products, but to sustain itself a little bit longer and not be kind of the charity case of the entertainment industry going forward. But again, if you've listened to us a lot, you've probably heard this spiel a lot from me and Emery both. So
that's nothing. Like, the concept of how they should restructure it is nothing new for us.
Yeah, so we'll both finish off Mr. Miracle there before too long, but I think Mr. Miracle also suffers in that it was right next to Batman White Knight. Batman White Knight was coherent from beginning to end, had everything you could ever want, had very good pacing. It was created by a single person, so that's not the issue. And it was just phenomenal. The art was great, the writing was great, everything was coherent. It seemed like something that could be collected, in one book and be outstanding, or it could be split into 12 equal parts and be outstanding.
The writer on that did so well that they had to ask him to do another issue on it before.
Scott did a great job, and
that is.
It really made Mr. Miracle look kind of bad when Mr. Miracle was going through all these delays and all these publishing issues. And I know that I think Mitch was having some personal events. I think maybe he had a child or something in there. So I'm sure personal events got in the way. But if you had done the project ahead of time and had it commissioned and, maybe waited to start releasing everything until everything was finished, you wouldn't have had that issue because everything would already be there and ready for publication. So
It's just another case of having a really good project and a really good concept right next to this other really good project and concept. But one of these authors knows when to quit or knows when to stop and knows how good their shit is. This was the sign, I think, personally, of someone who had all of these issues planned in advance. Is like you could tell, like from the beginning, that he already had an end in mind for that arc.
Yeah,
and it showed
and
to its benefit.
I'm concerned it was just more of the business model. I think it was probably they signed a contract or was told by DC proper that, hey, you're doing 12 issues, 13 issues, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, how are we going to stretch this out? Because maybe we did a little bit too much too early, and now we have to figure out what to do for an issue or two, stuff like that. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we are getting more connected, long-paced stories out of the comic book world. So it doesn't make as much sense as it used to do this kind of month-to-month comic release and project term. And I get it, we got a lot of digital assistants now that they didn't used to have, that probably frees up artists and creators a little bit to do a little bit more, but when you have these kind of overarching stories and tie-ins and whatnot, instead of the short, sweet, month-to-month villain of the week type of deal, like they typically had in the 60s, 50s, 40s, so on. It just doesn't make sense to keep this, last minute, financial situation for every single project. I'd rather just have a prepared and proper, arc or, 12 issue portion prepared and ready to go way ahead of the time, and then just release it episodically to, maintain tradition or keep it episodic or whatever you want to do. But yeah, that's my spiel on that. So, have you been reading anything else?
I have actually fallen behind on Mr. and Mrs. X.
Oh, the new power marriage in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, this is the one that a long time ago I thought would never happen.
Now, having said that, are you happy that Rogue and Gambit are together?
I am.
In marriage?
I am. This was a pairing of two individuals who clearly knew their way around a relationship and managed to have several relationships both before and after starting one with each other.
Hot.
Oh, yeah. So hot. With that being said, having the opportunity to marry the two hottest X-Men together and then have them have their own book. Guys, why have we not done this sooner?
Emery's creaming himself over here.
Hey.
If this is your first episode, Gambit is famously Emery's favorite character.
Yeah. And no, I am not creaming myself yet.
It's on the horizon, though.
Don't get us started.
So, for what you have read, are you enjoying it?
There's a bit of silliness that isn't really needed for it, but overall, I think it's a pretty good run so far.
Nice.
It starts post-marriage, and you get to see the two of them embark on adventures that start in outer space and I think are still kind of in outer space. The reason why
is daddy-in-law in the picture, the space pirate.
Oh, no. That is...
Cyclops is dead.
Cyclops is dead. Actually, that might be an issue that I haven't gotten to yet. I'm pretty sure the Starjammers actually do show up.
Wow.
I know the Shi'ar has shown up. Deadpool has shown up.
Why?
Because he's so hot right now.
Oh, that's right. Makes sense.
Deadpool 2 came out this year.
Wow. It does not feel like that. That's the last review we attempted to complete, but did not complete because our video was corrupted or something. So
yeah, sorry about
it's coming
that.
eventually.
Yeah,
we got a lot of making up to do. So
yeah, we got
expect that.
We got a lot coming down the pipeline. Our pipeline's a little clogged,
Hot.
if you will. But yeah, there's lots of surprises, lots of new things for this hot new married couple to go out and do. Read it.
Yeah. See, that kind of reflects on the DC universe a bit because at the same time, there was also a wedding going on in the DC universe.
Oh.
This one between Batman and Catwoman.
Which
So we have
should have been hot.
So it's kind of like the summer marriage season this year, where we
Yeah.
had Kitty Pryde and Colossus getting married. I think again.
They were about to get married again, but
things happened.
Last minute
Ooh.
cancellation, and then
Rogue and Gambit, and now Batman and Catwoman. And they all
Yeah.
sort of have their kind of marriage escapades going on.
yeah,
And I'm not really a fan. Like I get it. The characters deserve to progress and get married and do whatever, but I don't want to see Batman and Catwoman married.
Well,
And
the
I
thing,
don't- yes.
well, the thing about that is that they didn't.
Well, yeah, well, it's a little up in the air on that one, but yeah,
Well,
principles.
yeah. The thing that I think you might have missed is that tragically, Batman got left at the altar.
Hat. But yeah, it's a weird world right now.
Yeah.
Kind of power couples having their own storylines going on, and
Yeah,
it's
like
it's a strange thing.
yeah. As it stands right now, the thing that has me the most surprised is the fact that out of all of the relationships that turned into weddings that happened, only one of those survived.
And the one you probably wouldn't expect.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like out of all of these, more than anything, I expected Kitty Pryde and Colossus to finally tie that goddamn knot.
Yeah.
The odds were a little less in the favor of Batman and Catwoman because we like both of those characters to be single.
Yeah. Batman's kind of self-hating egomaniac, while Catwoman is a thieving, conniving, scheming individual.
Kleptomaniac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one I didn't see happening, but
yeah, that marriage was going to crash and burn if they succeeded anyway. Being left on the altar probably did everyone, including you readers, a favor. But then both of those failed. And then Rogue and Gambit, the most tumultuous, like openly tumultuous
Yeah.
relationship.
second only to maybe Joker and Harley Quinn.
Yeah. That's the one that makes it?
Yeah, it was a little it's a little strange.
Yeah.
I'm entertained by it, but it's a little strange for sure.
A little bit. There's the things I didn't expect to actually go through.
So, have you been reading anything else?
I think the only other thing that I read was the final issue of Maestros.
See, don't spoil it for me. 'cause
I
I've yet to pick up that last issue.
I'm not saying shit.
But damn, do I love that book.
Oh.
Maestros was by far my favorite book of 2017 when it started.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to still be my favorite book of 2018, even though it ended, several months ago. But
yes.
damn, is that book good.
Oh.
For an adult audience, obviously, but the art is outstanding. The writing is ridiculous and outstanding.
It's so good.
It's so good. It's one of the best comedy anythings I've ever read. It is just so good, so great. And I love every bit of it. So read Maestros if you haven't read it yet.
Please read Maestros.
And to Will Beasley,
as
out
long
there,
as you are 18 and older.
Will Beasley, you're still getting that volume. It's just a matter of getting it in the mail finally.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's coming to you as a past producer of the show. So.
Oh yeah.
Thank you very much, Will. We love you.
Still on the way.
I've been catching up on a few books this week leading up to the relaunch of the show. I caught up on Heroes in Crisis, as we talked about earlier.
Ooh, how's that one?
That first issue was interesting. It at least set up a premise that I was interested in, although it's not quite what I expected or what I was hoping to see from a book about kind of a PTSD-focused narrative. Instead of it's more of a murder mystery, brainwashing shenanigans type of book, which I'm not so about. But it's not my story. It's Tom King's, and I need to remind myself of that as I go through.
Right.
It's not intended to be what I thought it was intended to be.
Right. It is
so
ultimately his story, and if it is something that interests us, we'll buy it. If not, we'll leave it on the shelves.
It's on issue 3 right now. I don't know if it's had delays. It must have, because I read the first issue. Maybe it was about 3 months ago. So I don't know. Maybe it hasn't been delayed, but it's fine. But it's focusing on some characters that have to be written perfectly to be good.
Yeah,
like enjoyable to read. And right now the story's focusing on Harley Quinn and Booster Gold.
Wait a minute.
Yes, those are the cornerstones of her story. They have kind of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, the big three, the Trinity there in the wings, kind of addressing what is happening in this book. But it doesn't make a lot of sense. And it seems a little silly in some regards in a book that's trying to be serious and kind of failing at it. And I think...
Did Tom King lose a bet or something?
I don't know. Like, it's such a good concept on paper, but the people he's using, I don't know if it was a good idea.
I mean, I've seen some things that make it look like it's trying to address the issues of convergence.
Yeah, and it's definitely addressing some problems that Convergence has left over in the DC proper universe.
Yeah,
excess characters and extra characters, and people that were left over from Dark Knight's,
metal,
and all that stuff. All that silly stuff that has happened up to now. But I just think it was such a big mistake to focus the story so heavily on Harley Quinn in particular, because she is so hard to read. And there's very few versions of Harley Quinn that I think can carry their own story. Very few. And this is not one of them, in my opinion. And Booster is, I love Booster. I'm on the record saying I love Booster, and I love reading his stuff. But in this case, he's just... Not only is he a big dummy, but he's, really leaning into being a big fucking idiot and having the, kind of shitty, plot narrative of, having amnesia about an event, a very convenient amnesia.
Oh, no.
And it's just, it's like every generic, plot twist that you could imagine. And it's just... I don't think it's working up to this point. Again, we're only 3 issues in. It could get better, but the art is great. The artist has done a wonderful job, but I am having a lot of trouble staying in the story. I do want to know what's going on, but that's about it. That's the only thing keeping me in there, and it's leaning very heavily on past narratives and storylines to kind of push its way through, and I don't think it's being very effective, and it's disappointing because I do think Tom King is a great writer in his own right and has done very good work, particularly on Grayson. So,
Yeah, it
I
was
mean,
like
if anybody could convince me that Grayson was a good idea, it was him, and he managed to write a really good book on a concept that I genuinely hated. And that's saying something I wanted to hate with all my heart. I enjoyed because his writing was so good and the art was so good. So it's not an indictment on Tom King. I just don't think this is his best work, and I'm hoping he can turn it around going forward.
Yeah, I think while the intentions are good and probably pure, I think the execution and the narrative choices made, already starting off with two people who are always paired with someone else and then putting this odd couple together, it doesn't sound like it would fit.
Yeah, and
like ever.
It's kind of like the I don't know, the Tarantino effect, where the story's jumping from one place to another, and it's focused on too many characters doing too many stupid things that don't need to be there. And even in the way it's framed and told is very annoying and kind of, I don't know. I feel like every time I'm starting to get into the story, it does one of those Family Guy cuts into something completely separate, you know.
Oh, God, cutaways.
To tell a joke or to do something stupid, and it's just... I don't think it's adding to the story. I think it's making it a very hard read. And as much of a DC fanboy as I am, I'm struggling. So another DC book I've been catching up on is Justice League Odyssey, I think it's called. This one is a weird book, kind of spinning from the No Justice Scott Snyder book that attempted to add to the universe and create more in a way that's not related to Dark Knight's Metal, although it kind of is, unfortunately. Oh, man. Dark Knight's Metal is rough. But No Justice kind of created a bunch of separate teams to kind of prevent these, godlike creatures from basically devouring Earth and several other, important planets in the DC universe. And the fallout of this is several different teams you wouldn't expect to be together. And this Odyssey book, it's a team of Starfire, Cyborg, Jessica Cruz's Green Lantern, which is the most recent one, who came from another universe, if I'm not mistaken, and was previously evil, I think, but I don't remember.
That's weird.
There's so many Green Lanterns; it's hard to keep track of everybody now.
Yeah.
And Azrael. I don't know why he's in the group, but he is. And Darkseid, the new reincarnation of Darkseid.
Darkseid?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's a weird book. It is kind of intriguing. I still don't get why Azrael was the choice to go with for a space adventure. I think he's probably the weakest link in the whole thing.
Yeah. This is the same conundrum when it comes to looking at Batman when it comes to the rest of the entire Justice League lineup. And it's like, okay, every single one of these other people has something fantastic and amazing about them. This guy dresses up in a weird gimp suit and has a bunch of tools.
I'm rich. Yeah, it's a weird concept. And I'm all about weird teams. Like one of my favorite New 52 books was Green Lantern New Guardians, which teamed up a bunch of different lanterns, from the different color spectrums with White Lantern Kyle Rayner.
That one surprisingly worked a lot better than I ever would have thought.
Yeah, it was outstanding, but it also kind of made sense because they were all kind of space creatures that were lanterns and had a reason for being there.
Right, they had this one unifying thing.
I don't understand why a Gotham-focused Knight of Saint Dumas is going around space in Brainiac's ship with this weird ragtag group of completely unrelated people. The only people that are really related, are Cyborg and
Starfire.
Well, yeah, for Teen Titans, but in this universe, Cyborg wasn't part of the Teen Titans. He was part of the Justice League.
Oh, they put him straight in because let's take out the thing that we actually
mean,
remember him for.
They change it whenever that's convenient. I've talked about this before. I don't think Cyborg should ever be on the Justice League.
Yeah,
I think he's a Teen Titan. I think he's a Titan, period.
Yeah.
If Nightwing is not on the Justice League, Cyborg most definitely should not be on
yeah.
I think he's not a Justice League member, and he shouldn't be, in my opinion. I think,
It's like
I don't
there are other ways to address the elephant in that room.
diversity.
Yeah.
We have diverse characters. You got Jon Stewart.
Yes.
Why don't you have ways?
Is the Martian Manhunter on the regular
but
turns into a black person?
It just doesn't match Cyborg's character, and I think it's very ill-suited to him.
Yeah.
You could have Mr. Terrific in there. Mr. Terrific would be way better and way more appropriate for the Justice League than,
the Terrifics.
than Booyah. I don't want flaccid booyahs. I want the loud, proud booyah.
Loud, proud, fully erect booyah. That booyah needs to penetrate my sullen heart and make me excited again.
But yeah, it's a weird group. In some ways it works, in some ways it doesn't so far. Only a few issues in, but it's an intriguing concept, and the art is great. I love the art. It was the main reason I picked up the book in the first place, because I love the cover art of the first issue. So
yeah,
we'll see how it evolves through time. There's a lot of other books that I need to catch up on, like Highest House. I was really heavy on when we took our hiatus there. And I really want to get back into that. I think it's an IDW book, but it's outstanding. I really enjoy it. And I can't wait to get back in there and see how they're kind of flipping typical narratives on their head, which they did, I think, with the last issue I read, which is issue 4 or 5. So Highest House, I really heavily recommend that one. Go pick it up. And there's a few of them that we gotta. Was it Death or Glory?
Death or Glory.
So that's another one we gotta catch up on. Stuff like that.
Yeah,
so.
Imaginary Fiends, definitely.
Yeah, that one from Vertigo, and Death or Glory from Image, I believe.
Yeah.
So Witchblade, we got to catch up on.
Oh,
so there was a lot of good books we kind of left and standing there when we took our hiatus, and we got to catch up on.
We have some homework to do.
Yeah, we've been working a lot, at our actual jobs.
Yeah,
and a lot of hours. So we haven't really had the time to get everything going again.
Not yet.
So
until today,
that wraps up pretty much everything that we've been reading there. We don't have did the content match the drapes this week because obviously it's been a long time since we've done the comic and
it has been quite some
variant
time.
comic of the week. So look forward to that next week. With that, let's get into the news. Now, once again, we're not going to have topics of the week this week because there's so much news that we have to catch up on from this summer and this fall. So let's jump into it.
Oh, boy.
First up, the biggest and most obvious, Stan Lee's death. Stan Lee has finally passed away. We thought him immortal for so long.
Only because he lasted so long against the odds, given the turns that his health had taken.
Yeah, and there's some really great videos of him talking about his fans, talking about things with his wife. I think I think it was on Fat Man Beyond with Kevin Smith that I heard Kevin Smith talk about his story when he was interviewing him at his house with his wife.
Yeah,
and it's a really sweet tale. I'm not going to retell it. I recommend you go listen to it on his podcast there.
Yeah, and also just watch Fat Man on Batman or Fat Man Beyond at this point.
Yeah, it's Fat Man Beyond now.
Yeah.
But it's a really kind of sweet story. There's a lot of great stories during that episode, and I think they did it on Hollywood Babylon too, and to a lesser extent. But there's a lot of great stuff coming out there, and we will have kind of a Stan Lee Life in Review kind of memorial episode for him coming very soon. So look out for that if you want to kind of work out your feelings about the legend Stan Lee with us there.
Yeah.
We'll kind of give you a history of his life and his accomplishments. We'll talk about, the way he influenced us, the way he's influenced, others. So please look forward to that. And if you would be so kind, check that out because it's a project that I think is going to mean a lot to both of us. So,
and
I'm sure plenty of you.
Yeah. The TLDR for that. Stan Lee is a man who lived.
Yeah.
In every sense of the word.
And it's kind of sad because that last year or year and a half or so of his life was kind of a whirlwind of kind of, I would assume, painful things for him,
Yeah.
From the point his wife handled all his financials, from what I understand, along with his agent and his accountant. And then after she passed, his kind of barrier from, for lack of a better term, leeches in his life.
Of which there were many. He was a very successful man.
Agents, coworkers, family members that were apparently very abusive to him and kind of manipulating him and doing things like drawing his blood to have him sign things in his blood to make extra money, and stuff like that. Just horrible stuff that he was having to deal with. Some of it's probably rumor and, probably not true, or, at least not true to the extent that we think it is. But there was a lot of unfortunate things going on that last year, which is kind of sad to think about, but it seems, based on some of the videos we've seen coming out since, that he still maintained, the persona of Stan Lee and kind of that image we have of him. So, highly recommend you go out and kind of YouTube some of these things. They're really, really great and really good to listen to. And again, more on that in the future. So, rest in peace, Stan Lee. You're definitely going to be missed. And for those of you curious, supposedly he's already recorded a lot of his cameos for stuff like Captain Marvel and the second part of Infinity War, stuff like that. So, it's going to be a very bittersweet feeling, I think, when we see those cameos after the fact. So it's kind of like Heath Ledger, with The Dark Knight.
It's like
he's already dead by the time it premiered, and it was very strange.
Watching the last performances of someone who's already passed, there's going to be something odd about it.
For sure. So, once again, rest in peace, Stan Lee. You will be missed.
Yeah.
On a lighter note, this summer we had quite the penis controversy with Batman Damned, which is a book that has been coming out. I think it's part of the DC Black Label movement that they've been pushing here these past few months. And this book has risen to fame not because of its particularly great writing or anything like that. Don't know. I haven't read it just yet, but it rose to fame because before the book even came out, reviewers revealed that you get to see Bruce Wayne's penis for the first time, uncensored. And this is a book meant for adult readers from the get-go. But it's kind of unfortunate because it kind of devoured any kind of accessibility for the common fan to this book.
Yeah.
Before the book even came out, comic book stores were jacking up the price up to like $60, $70, $80 for the issue when it came out. And it was ridiculous. They were pricing out their own customers before the book was even out yet. They were taking $60, $70, $80 pre-orders because Batman's penis was on a page. And it was just the most ridiculous and kind of gross display I've ever seen. Emery and I are very, very fervent supporters of your local comic book shops, and we have shops that we're very dedicated to that we love.
Yeah.
But it was so gross looking at these business pages just shoving these things out into the ether because they know they could get a really nice quick buck off the bat penis reveal. And again, because reviewers let it out of the bag way ahead of time, before the public had access to these issues. So it was very silly. It was very over the top, and I feel bad for the creator because now the prerogative of his art is not, is the story great? Is the book great? Is the art great? No, it's bat penis. That's all it's going to be remembered for. Bat penis.
Too many dicks.
It's really sad and really unfortunate. And to be honest, I don't know why it's such a big deal. Like, it's not the first penis we've seen in the comic books, just because it's this other imaginary character, Bruce Wayne.
It's like, did we forget that Dr. Dr. Manhattan already happened in like the 80s?
Yeah, and DC has come out, talking about how it's censoring future versions of it, which only jacked up the collectability and price of it more, again, before it was released. Again, victimizing fans, in my opinion. And then they came out and said that they wish they never would have let it go through, the editorial room and all that stuff, which I don't agree with at all. You want this adult, focused Black Label book out and in its true form, according to the artist and the writer. That shouldn't be the problem. The problem is that it's being built up and hyped up and used to generate sales instead of allowing people to access the story in the way they want and collect the books the way they want. To me, it just hurts the physical comic industry, which I'm sure DC would love nothing more than the death of, because then they can focus on their digital platforms that have a much lower barrier to entry. But I was very
that's a segue into another news item.
Yeah. So I don't know how you felt about it, but I was very disgusted, not because there was a penis on the page, but because of how many shop owners used it and manipulated it, and the way DC themselves manipulated it to generate even more sales. So
there is a GIF that explains perfectly how I felt about that entire proceeding, and it's from the Eric Andre show, and it's Eric Andre saying, how could they do something that controversial and also that brave?
I don't know. I honestly wish that reviewers and people that had early access hadn't even talked about it, because at least then fans would have had the chance to get it at a normal price, at the price it was intended to be sold at, and experience it, firsthand without having it spoiled for them and all this other stuff. So I don't know.
But there's only one way that doesn't get talked about, and that is to not have it in there, which this is like the ultimate catch-22 of this entire situation. Either you commit to what you are trying to do, which is to go a more adult-oriented route with this pre-established character, which could be amazing, but the taste has already been soured because as a result of the billion-dollar man's penis being exposed, we have to gouge the prices, because you know how much that penis is worth? Billions. I mean,
it's
like you, I was grossed out by the business practice side of it. It was
not great.
it was so blatant that this was an attempt to get more money from what they were trying to do here.
And I understand it's their job to make money, but I just thought it was too much. It was just, I don't know. I'll leave it at that. It makes me angry thinking about it, so I'm just going to let it go. But that does segue into the next news topic of the summer. The DC streaming app has finally come into fruition.
It's here, folks.
When I first heard about it, I thought it was the dumbest fucking thing ever. And I think it would have a lot more value and a lot more importance if it was a WB app.
You would think.
A WB Universe app, kind of like Disney is building their app that's going to include Marvel things, that's going to include Star Wars things, that's going to include the proper Disney things, it's going to include Pixar things. That would make a lot more sense to me.
Yeah, it would.
But instead, we're getting the DC exclusive app, and it's just one of many of these new apps that are in the ether now, between the CBS app, the HBO app, the Netflix app, the Hulu app, the Amazon app.
Let's add another
DC
fucking app.
The Disney app, the ESPN app, all of these things you have to watch these things. And while they're not expensive in and of themselves, when you have to have several of them to enjoy the content you want to enjoy, it becomes very expensive very quickly and kind of counterintuitive to the business model.
I think the thing that I've noticed with this is that it's starting to turn these apps into the new TV channels
Yeah,
that you're paying for individually.
and I'm not opposed to that type of model. My issue is with the expense. You
Yeah.
know, a typical cable package can be, up to maybe $60-$70 for like all the premium channels and all that stuff. And I am not a fan of cable or dish at all. I cut the cord as early as I could. When Hulu first started, streaming, everyday shows the day after, I was on that board like immediately. I was so happy and thrilled with that.
It's just watch it on the internet.
And I paid, I think, $7 or $8 a month, and I think eventually I moved to the higher tier when they offered commercial-free version and paid the $11 or whatever it was a month, and then they jacked up the prices even more. And I get it, you got to increase things to have more content and blah blah blah. But it's now at a point where it's so expensive for each app that it doesn't make financial sense to invest in all of these services. So either you're missing out on the service, or you have to spend all this extra money for something that does not cost nearly as much money to produce and sustain.
Right.
And it's just another kind of gross business thing. But I get it. As a company, you're there to make money, not to appease the crowd necessarily. And I was very opposed to this DC app for all the reasons we've listed. However, I will say I've kind of softened on it a little bit. I think as it currently stands, it's probably not going to stay this way. It's about $7, $8 a month, $7.99 I think, for the subscription. Plus, they give you a free trial, and it gives you access to a very large, library of previous DC content, including animated shows, live action shows, movies. A pretty decent catalog of comics, which is what kind of switched me over a little bit. It's not quite, the Marvel Unlimited, I don't think, but it's something substantial there to kind of add value to it, especially as they're kind of dragging their feet to get all these other shows that they've been promising out. As it stands right now, there's a few episodes of the Titans show, which I haven't watched yet. I'll probably get a free trial here, try it out, and see how the show is, although I don't have high expectations from what I've seen so far.
Between Titans being like what's currently the only reason up until I heard about Young Justice Season 3 being DC Universe app only.
Yeah.
And then like Doom Patrol, I don't know very much about Doom Patrol except for they do feature in an episode of Titans.
Yeah, there's the kind of more adult Harley Quinn animated feature, but done in Bruce Timm style, that I think clash a lot. They made that movie, Bruce Timm, drawn, obviously, whereas Batman and Nightwing and Harley Quinn, I don't remember what the title was, but
I think it was just Batman and Harley Quinn.
Yeah, and
even though Nightwing was there,
it combined the more innocent and childlike nature of Bruce Timm's art with a far more adult vibe.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a scene where Nightwing is basically raped. I mean, you're meant to interpret him wanting to participate, but I don't remember him giving consent at any point in that. But
I don't remember that, but I also don't remember that costume ever coming off.
Well, I mean,
not that you would need to.
I was gonna say it's pretty thin material there. But it was very strange. It's kind of like with the laughing joke. They use kind of the Bruce Timm style in a lot of it.
Yeah.
And the first scene is just a completely unexpected.
Oh, you mean the killing joke?
Killing joke, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And we have Batgirl having sex with Batman for no reason. There's no historical reason for that. It wasn't in the original book at all.
It makes no sense.
It's just there for no reason other than to say, hey, it's there.
It's there.
Want to see some side boob? Here.
Maybe have this as the motivation as to why Bruce is mad that one of his proteges was shot and paralyzed.
It can't be that it's his best friend's daughter or that it's his former protege. Like,
Yeah.
it has to be that he stuck his penis in her. Like, this doesn't make sense.
It's
so
like, guys, come on.
I think
This is
DC's been stumbling a little bit with its animated stuff. Not because it's bad quality, but because the writing is just forcing these things in there to be salacious and grab
Right.
headlines, I guess. I don't know.
I think the
but-
thing that baffles me about the Killing Joke is that story was already written. They didn't need to add anything
Yeah.
to it.
all the material is there. And I get if you want to take a little bit of artistic license, but that's just unnecessary, completely
Yeah.
unnecessary.
God.
So I don't know. It's a little strange, but the DC app is out there for you to consume now. I probably will give you a little bit of a review. Don't expect it to stay at this price point for very long, especially with all these other apps inbound.
Yeah,
So-
and all of their other content soon to come
Yeah.
along with that.
And in every other market, there's kind of a competition going on. But for some reason in the streaming market, everybody just seems to agree to jack up the price after a certain amount of time.
Yeah, that
because
seems to be
if you
the-
want it, you're going to buy it.
yeah,
And that's just how they kind of see things. I think Netflix is going to be in some trouble once the Disney app comes out, just because so much of its content is a Disney property. And I think if WB ever does make a comprehensive app,
yeah,
they're going to be in a little trouble. I mean, they're already losing their CBS stuff because CBS is trying to force its app down our throats. So
right.
I think Netflix is going to have a hard time in the future here maintaining its kind of status quo. Whereas I think Hulu, they have the advantage of, kind of putting up live TV items and then removing them after a period of time that I don't think the other apps have to worry about. So
yeah,
it's more of a support app than a competition app. And Amazon's so big, nobody's gonna even bother to try to compete with that one. So next up, as we address, Netflix is losing all of the Marvel and Disney properties slowly but surely. A lot of the shows have been recently announced to be canceled, such as Daredevil.
Oh,
And now, of
yeah.
course, it's probably a soft canceled. It just means it's probably not going to be on Netflix anymore. And Marvel is going to take it, under the branch of the Disney app and adapt it on its own platform at some point.
Fun fact about that: there's already been an executive that has gone on record to say that the way that the contracts are drawn up, once these are canceled, in order for those shows to start back up again, not only do they have to completely reboot, but they have to completely recast as well.
Yeah, unless they buy them out, which they're certainly going to. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I'm not concerned about that. That's just executive talk trying to jack up the price a little bit before they have to sell it with a gun to their head.
Yeah, probably.
So
Either way, it's Iron Fist I could understand. Luke Cage, I was a little upset about because I was actually excited to, watch Luke Cage actually be Luke Cage, which he did in season 2, and I was like, man, I was ready for more. But Daredevil, the one that started it all.
I mean, it's not going to stay on Netflix no matter what you do. Disney's not going to allow that, no matter how much you try to pay for it. There's no benefit to it.
They want that money.
They want to tear off that Band-Aid and just start it up on their app and make money. So I don't blame Disney for what they're doing because they bought it for a reason.
Yeah.
They spent billions, literally billions of dollars on Star Wars and on Marvel, and they're going to use that investment as much as they can.
And somehow Sony still has Spider-Man.
Speaking of which, we have the Spider-Man video game that came out.
Hey!
Have you played it?
Yes.
So I assume we're going to review it at some point in the near future. I'm finally getting around to Injustice. Injustice 2 there. So we'll talk about that as well.
Oh, yeah.
But Spider-Man, what do you think?
It was so good that I managed to blow through that entire game in a weekend.
Wow.
Now, mind you, blowing through that entire game in a weekend means not sleeping.
We're pretty good at that already, so
Yeah.
that works.
Yeah. This game had me mostly riveted from start to finish. There were a couple of minor gripes that I had with it because of, having to, in my opinion, pad it out because it's a video game.
Yeah.
And trying to get your money's worth.
Of course.
But the story, was top notch.
Wow.
Oh my God.
High praise. So expect a review and spoiler discussion in the future of that and several other things.
Yeah. Okay. To give you a little taste of what that review is going to be like. Story on par with Spider-Man Homecoming.
Wow. I don't believe it. I don't believe you.
I guess you'll have to play it.
And surely I will in the near future. In other comic book video game news, Telltale, its pyramid scheme finally collapsed.
Oh, the bad news.
And a lot of projects, including The Wolf Among Us Season 2, took a hit.
Yeah.
I know they had that Avengers project, which is probably completely gone now. They had the Guardians of the Galaxy. I think they managed to finish that just in time.
Yeah, they finished that
before everything became unsolvent.
Yeah.
And Walking Dead Season 3 was canceled halfway through, but it got picked up by the Walking Dead proper brand to be finished. How it's going to be finished, I'm not sure. Does that mean this team is going to come in and use their engine to finish it, or are they going to have to create a brand new engine just to finish the game because they don't own the rights to the Telltale engine? So it's a very confusing process. But Telltale looks like it's more or less going into complete bankruptcy. They're still looking for assets to sell and stuff like that to try to keep themselves afloat. A lot of employees were just dropped without severance packages or anything, and this all seemed to drop out of the blue. So it kind of reeks to me that somebody at the top was kind of sweeping a lot of debt under the rug and not really accounting for it, and then it all came to a head when they realized that they don't own any of these properties. They are leasing these properties. And it's been reflected as a lot of these games have been pulled off, shops, whether it's, the PSN or the Xbox Network or Steam.
Yeah.
So a lot of these games have been disappearing, which is kind of unfortunate. I really enjoy the Telltale games. I wish they would have fixed their engine a long, long time ago. And I think the episodic content structure is a bad business plan, very much like current comic books.
Yeah.
I would much rather they just released an entire game in that style instead of doing the episodic content, because what usually happens is everybody waits until everything's done and then buys it at a discount.
Right.
Whereas
Meanwhile,
if you just released it all together, you wouldn't have to worry about that. And I'm sure it's taxing on their engine to kind of have to scan what happened in all the previous episodes and the download data and then conform the new episode to it every single time.
Yeah.
So
it definitely reeked of, like, basically, as you were saying, like living month to month.
Paycheck to paycheck.
Paycheck to paycheck, or episode to episode in this case.
Yeah.
It's like trying to get all of that money as quickly as possible, while at the same time wondering why your sales were steadily going down, even though you weren't changing or innovating at all.
Yeah, so it's kind of sad because I did enjoy the games. I'm about to hop into the Batman ones. I really enjoyed Wolf Among Us. I enjoyed the first 2 Walking Dead seasons and the DLC that they had with the first season. So I've enjoyed a lot of it. I know they had the Game of Thrones thing, which isn't my thing, but I know a lot of people loved it. I played the Tales of the Borderlands one. That was really great, really funny, really entertaining. Like they've made good games. It's just they've consistently refused to adapt their business model, consistently refused to adapt their software to the changing times, and they didn't improve their infrastructure at all and give themselves financial stability at all. And I understand it's hard to do, but they had very successful franchises and games. They should have been able to work it out, but it doesn't seem they were interested in that.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
They had one specific structure, and they tried to ride that wave as long as possible. And It's like, unless you change, you are going to die.
So it definitely makes me sad, and my heart goes out to the developers and writers and staff because I'm sure they worked their asses off, and it's just poor management at the kind of top level that led to this, and it's very unfortunate, but
Yeah.
I guess that's just the way it goes sometimes. Next up on the news, we have several new movies that we missed here, and I figured we might as well talk about the movie universes a little bit. The biggest of which is probably Venom right now, which was surprisingly financially successful for a movie I did not expect to be financially successful. But I guess they dumped enough into the marketing campaign. I mean, Venom was in and on everything. Everything. They dumped so much money into marketing, and they did it well, I think. I don't know about that first trailer still, but
This is how well they did. If anyone ordered something off of Amazon Prime now, you most likely got an all-black bag with big print word Venom across the front.
yeah. So their marketing team deserves a raise because they did a great job of marketing this movie. I haven't seen it just yet. I'm probably going to see it soon. I don't really want to.
I've seen it. It's very entertaining. I'm not going to say it's good.
There you have it. So I expect a review of that in the future as well. But it's there.
Yeah.
Enjoy it if you want to.
Yeah. I will say that I've heard comparisons to, like, okay, so say we're taking all of like the movies outside of the superhero universes and saying this, like, we're comparing this one movie to all of these. This one movie being The Room, starring Tommy Wiseau, comparing that to the rest of like the annals of film history. People have made a correlation from that comparison to how they're comparing Venom to basically current comic book movies today. It is a sight to behold.
It's real comic book movie.
It's real alien behavior.
So yeah, if you want to see that movie or you liked it, let us know. I'm gonna see it, but I'm just worried. That's all.
I have seen it.
I'm just worried.
Yeah. I'm going to say right now that your worries are probably well-founded. That being said, you will still be entertained, much like watching The Room.
Ringing endorsement.
Yep.
And then the other movie we happened to miss in our hiatus there was the Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I know you saw it again.
Yep.
We were really busy. I did not see it.
Yeah. Had a lot going on.
What are your initial thoughts on it?
It's another one.
The last time you told me it's another one, something horrendous happened. And,
okay.
I was soured on an entire franchise, probably for the rest of my life. So when I hear another one, I don't necessarily think good things.
Okay.
For the record, the last time you told me it's another one was The Last Jedi.
Oh,
Holy shit. Holy shit, was that a bad movie? That was awful. Awful.
It still hurts.
And literally
It still hurts.
removed my interest at all in seeing any future Star Wars projects, including the Han Solo movie that just came out this year, that I had zero interest in seeing because of The Last Jedi. I was that soured on the franchise. I'm done.
Yeah.
Star Trek it is. That's all I got. It's my sci-fi window. No, Star Wars is done.
We're stuck with Star Trek.
I've given up. How dare you say stuck with Star Trek?
Look, it's nice to have the option. Okay.
Captain Jean-Luc Picard is back at it. All right.
Captain Jean-Luc Picard is back at it in a show that literally begged him to come on because they were doing terribly.
That's true. They were doing pretty awful. But
It's like
Patrick Stewart is awesome.
Like I might
He's
actually
not dead yet,
I might yes,
and
thank
hopefully will
God.
never die.
Yes, please never die. You and Ian McKellen, just stay here.
And I'm looking forward to watching that far more than any Star Wars projects in the future.
That's saying a lot.
Yeah.
That being said, that
Now, is this that type of another one?
no,
Okay.
no, this one. I say it's another one because
that makes me scared, because I liked the first Ant-Man movie quite a bit.
yeah, the first Ant-Man movie it's a lot of fun. This one is also a lot of fun. Paul Rudd is really good at physical comedy.
Hence why he was great on Anchorman.
Yes. Please, more Brian Fontana. I would actually just watch a Brian Fontana movie. I really would.
That would be outstanding.
It would. Oh my God. But this movie, while great in a lot of ways, I think it suffered from, honestly, the preconceived notion of trying to, like, I spent more time trying to figure out where this fit in with the MCU than I did, like, trying to enjoy the movie. Even though this movie had a ton for me to marvel at.
You said it.
Yep.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This takes place before Infinity War, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does. Case in point, the end credit scene tells you exactly where they are, like in the timeline at that point.
Gotcha.
That being said, there's a lot going on in this movie. It seemed as though every single character had their own story going, which it blended together kind of well, but in a couple other ways it was a little dizzying, because you have Bill Foster, who also off screen, because we'll never get to see that, he also got big, much like
Jacked.
not that kind of big.
Aw.
So, like I'm talking like 60 feet tall. They actually make a joke about like who got bigger. Because of course we're going to make that fucking joke. This is Ant-Man. But then the Wasp also got to do plenty of shining in this movie.
Very nice.
Which is exactly what we need more of. Because, like, don't get me wrong, all of these characters are great, but it's become more and more apparent that the issue of representation in these movies has been a slow-going process.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Again, I have no context for this. I've not seen the movie, so I'm just taking your word at face value here.
I will say the actress who played the Wasp, Evangeline Lilly, she did a fantastic job. Loved every second of it. She was the perfect foil to Paul Rudd's antics, of which there were many.
Of course.
And she had plenty of moments to not only be badass, but show that when you get right down to it, they really could have just gone with the Wasp.
Wow. Interesting. So, yeah, I definitely need to see it. I really enjoyed the first Ant-Man movie, and I should probably know what the hell's going on in the current Marvel Universe and catch up a little bit. Like I said, we've been busy. We've been working a lot. We've obviously moved locations.
Yep.
have new
New sources of income.
statuses and social influences and all of the above. So
Yes.
we apologize for the long wait. We expected it to be a much shorter wait, but we are ongoing and shaking off the rust and getting things going again.
Yep.
So
Life happens.
a lot of catching up to do,
Yep.
a lot of reviews in the
It's-
tank.
Yeah, welcome to season 2.
So you have a lot to look forward to.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's pretty much all the new movies that are out. So let's talk about some of the upcoming movies.
Oh, yes.
We have seen the trailers for both Shazam and Aquaman. Aquaman coming up very soon here this December. I think it's the 21st. Maybe that's the Europe release date, but sometime in the middle of December we're getting Aquaman. Was not really thrilled with the first trailer I saw of it, but this most recent trailer I saw, I'm still afraid, but I was much more encouraged by kind of seeing the visual effects of the actual Atlantis world and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it turns out. I'm glad that Aquaman is getting his own movie because I happen to think the real Aquaman in the comics is fucking awesome.
Yes.
And I
yes.
I genuinely hate the kind of royal douchebag version of Aquaman that I love Injustice, the video game, but they use the royal douchebag version of Aquaman that is completely unrelatable and unlikable.
They sure did.
And I just hate that version, even though I like using the character.
He's very powerful.
I like Arthur Curry, the man born on land,
the fish out of water.
to a lifeguard who just happens to have these incredible roots through his mother's line that he may or may not know about, that he may or may not have explored. I really like what the comics did. I haven't caught up, but pretty recently, where the Aquaman was kind of forced out of his throne, and Mera kind of took over the throne. And instead, because he was so unrelatable to the people and because he just knew so little about their traditions and their trajectory and what was best for them, because he is, at heart, half human.
Yeah.
And while he does have that royal line on his mother's side, he did not grow up in Atlantis, and nor should he be expected to rule an entire populace with no knowledge of them whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that was cool to see, and I've really been enjoying that aspect. And of course, Mera and Aquaman still have their kind of loving relationship, but now they can't act on it because Aquaman, for more or less, has been kind of exiled to an extent, and Mera is obviously busy
Yeah.
ruling an entire nation of people. So
Yeah, that's a pretty hefty job.
I'm glad that Aquaman, even in this kind of bro-friendly Jason Momoa, I can pee on it, version of Aquaman. I still don't know if Jason Momoa was the best option for Aquaman, nor his portrayal of it, but I did enjoy it in Justice League. One of the few things I enjoyed, and
I'm actually very excited for Jason Momoa's portrayal for 2 reasons.
he can pee on it.
I mean, yeah, he could pee on it. The first one being, if we're making comparisons between Marvel and DC, this is their Thor. And this is a Thor that actually has a leg up on Thor, like the Thor that we get in the MCU. As the first Thor movie, he's all about like, I'm a god, blah, 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 I'll do what I want. Then Dad says, no, fuck you, go to Earth. And you don't get your powers or your hammer and learn what it means to be human.
And you dye your eyebrows blonde.
Yes, because... wait, what? Yeah, that really happened, people. It was weird.
Check it. Watch the original Thor movie. His eyebrows are dyed blonde. I didn't realize it until I read about it years and years later. And as I was rewatching the Thor movies with my girlfriend and catching her up on the movies, I was like, wow, this first movie was not great. But you know what? The second movie actually was pretty damn good. People give it a lot of shit.
People give it a lot of shit.
Because there's a lot of lore building and like slow parts to it because of the lore building.
Yeah.
But it's actually a really good movie with really good acting and really good dialogue and kind of a heartwarming interaction between Loki and him. And
yeah, I only have one gripe with that movie, and that is Kat Dennings.
Meow. Meow, meow.
No,
Meow,
fucking no.
I don't know why that bothers you so much.
It's
Meow, meow.
It's Mjolnir.
Meow, meow.
It is you son.
But yeah.
Getting back to Aquaman.
Yeah.
Aquaman has the benefit of having grown up amongst the humans. So he already has that relatability factor going in.
Yeah.
So instead of feeling like, this guy's weird straight up, and like once you actually like watch him and listen to him, he's like, this is the dude that you want to party with.
Yeah. My man. So yeah.
The other reason I'm very excited is that we finally stepped away from the Zack Snyder color palette, which is
Gray.
Make everything drab. Everything drab the fuck up. No, not this one. We're getting bright, fucking colorful,
It feels
and under the sea.
Here's what makes me worried. It feels very Ragnarok-like. And I know a lot of people enjoyed Ragnarok because it was so over the top and ridiculous and
visually
vivid.
Yeah,
That's
true.
I'm getting this kind of feeling from these trailers where it's going to be very visually appealing, but it's going to be so ridiculous and nonsensical that I'm going to hate it. So, even though I'm enjoying myself a little bit throughout it, I'm going to be very disappointed. Well, not that DC could disappoint me any more than they already have, but I think I'm going to be walking into another trap if I put my expectations too high.
Yeah, let's keep them low. Let's keep them low and let ourselves be surprised.
Now, very similar to Suicide Squad, the other movie has gotten me far more excited than I ever expected to be. The trailer for Shazam was perfect. It was perfect. And I didn't want to get sucked back in. I tried so hard not to get sucked back in.
They're really good at trailers.
But just like the Suicide Squad trailer, I got sucked in and I was like, I am seeing this movie. Nothing is going to stop me from seeing this movie. Suicide Squad, I don't know how I avoided it for so long until you forced me to verify that it should not have been an Academy Award winning movie, but was possibly the worst movie I've ever seen.
Oh my god.
But my hopes are absurdly high for a movie I should have no hope for. And I'm going to see Shazam because it's exactly what I expect Shazam to be.
Shazam looks incredible. It looks like literally this is the kind of movie that I have been hoping for from DC this entire time. This is mostly what I wanted Superman to do for me, was to like give me that hope and wonder and kind of make me feel like a kid again. But we don't need Superman for that.
Nope.
We shouldn't use Superman for that.
Nope.
That is what Shazam is perfect for.
And they are leaning into it.
Oh.
And it gives me a lot of hope, but a very tentative hope.
Yeah,
I'm hoping I don't get burned again. I think I'm going to get burned again, but I have absurdly high expectations for this movie, and it's probably not fair to this movie.
The minute I saw a comics accurate muscle suit on Zachary Levi as he started flossing, it's like, oh yeah, I'm all in.
Yeah, I'm so about this movie. It's not even funny. I'm so into this movie.
Like, I think it's finally DC's time. I think they finally have figured out, instead of having an overarching feel to these movies, let each of these characters do what they do best.
Yeah. And the only thing that makes me sad is that both Aquaman and Shazam have to be tied to the former universe.
Yeah.
That, if Shazam is great, if Aquaman is great,
They still have to.
They're still stuck to the old lore. They can't just be their own cool thing in their own rebooted universe and kind of build, the next thing like Iron Man did with the original Marvel universe there.
Yeah,
and it makes me sad.
Superman was going to show up in Shazam. They were going to do that.
But Cavill's out. So.
Yeah, no. Well, Cavill is like they weren't paying him enough, so like they decided not to do it.
They would have to pay him an absurd amount of money to stay in that terrible franchise. So
yeah.
I don't blame him at all. I just wish DC would just be open about it and be like, look, we fucked up. We're just going to kind of reboot. We'll use the same actor for Aquaman. We'll use the same actor for Wonder Woman or actress.
It's like we've already got them signed.
We know that they're pretty good and they enjoy doing the role. So we're going to keep them, but we're going to, kind of ignore the past and build the future,
Yeah.
That's what I would like to see, especially with the Shazam movie, because I think the Shazam movie might be good.
Oh, my God.
And I don't want to lose him when they eventually are forced to reboot because they lost their entire cast.
Yes.
So.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I'm really curious. Those two movies have me really curious about Wonder Woman 84. Because, according to the pictures that I've seen, there are going to be, at the very least, some goofy things that we see happen.
Yeah, and we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, Wonder Woman was great. You have to kind of put your brain aside for a few scenes, like the whole sword in her back scene and the whole Nazi party where everybody's speaking English.
And
perfect English.
And the whole third act.
And, yeah, basically all the world wars being blamed on this one deity. And then everybody just making everything a black and white issue instead of a gray issue, which I thought they were going to do. And then they just completely shat upon.
They literally had the golden opportunity, and they shat on it.
They really did, though.
Oh, they really did. It hurts.
So, yeah. I have an absurd amount of hope in a place that I shouldn't have any hope. And I think I'm going to get hurt again. And I think I'm going to be up late at night after watching these movies, eating several tubs of ice cream and pizza and crying into a blanket by myself in a corner, watching reruns of Golden Girls. It's
like they keep telling me to let them back into my life, and they keep hurting me every time I do.
So yeah, look forward to that. On the Marvel side of things, we have the first looks at Captain Marvel, and I think we got the first trailer, right?
Yes.
I feel like I saw that trailer at some point this summer.
Yeah, the one where Captain Marvel punches an old lady?
Yeah, that's the one. So because it's Marvel, I have every bit of faith that it's going to be good. It seems weird that we're getting this kind of really old, was it 90s version?
Yeah, a lot
story. So I don't know how they're going to age Brie Larson appropriately, or is she going to age? Because
I'm
alien DNA or whatever.
I don't know how long the Kree tend to live, but I'm assuming that's going to factor in how they're going to age or not age Brie Larson for Avengers 4.
Yeah.
That being said, I am looking forward to another impressive de-aging, but this time with Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
And also Phil Coulson, the guy who plays Phil Coulson, Clark Gregg. Just to put that note out there.
Yeah, but that makes me think that Coulson was an agent for the past 20 years. And I don't think that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because that would mean he became an agent at age 18.
Which, honestly, someone who's that big a fan, I could totally see that happening. The guy had fucking Captain America cards.
I guess.
It's like, can I
How
have the
would he
government?
know about it?
Can I have the government job where I get to, talk to the people who met Captain America? That's all I care about.
So there's some weird timeline things going on that's going to be a little hard to work around. And it's early 90s, right? If I remember correctly.
Whichever part of the 90s had Blockbuster Video in it.
Well, all of it. No, that was like 96-ish, right? Well, it came out in the 80s, didn't it?
Yeah.
It just got big in the 90s, right?
Yeah, I think I saw a Stray Nirvana t-shirt on someone, like in one of the pictures of this movie, so take from that what you will.
Post 91.
Yeah, 91, 92.
So, yeah, it's interesting. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how they kind of work everything in together, and I'm sure there's going to be, something at the end that implicates Bree into this new universe, which we saw at the end of Infinity War with the kind of signal jammer there.
I normally don't give a shit about Captain Marvel, mostly because he's like one of the space things that always seemed way too Green Lantern-ish, but without any of the like cool, like we have this cool oath where you get a ring where you can make anything you fucking want, but no, we're doing complicated powers and he's just an alien. And Ms. Marvel, let's pass this on. So to someone relatable.
Nailed it.
You know what I want? I want Captain Marvel in this universe only so that I could have proper MCU Rogue.
Yeah, we'll see. Speaking of Rogue.
We have
some X-Men news to talk about.
Oh, man.
Now, everybody knows that they've been trying to film over at Fox this Dark Phoenix trilogy.
Stop.
And they were supposed to release X-Men, or not X-Men, but New Mutants. Is that right?
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
And we were all excited about it because we were liking how they were kind of biting into that kind of horror aspect of it.
It looked fucking cool.
But since the purchase has finally gone through with Fox and Disney proper there, it seems like they're delaying all of these things, if not indefinitely, at least to cater the new cast to their Marvel universe in some way, shape, or form, which is probably a good thing for everybody involved. But that being said, you're probably not going to see these films in the form that they were supposed to be seen in. And I think it's directly related to the purchase. And to be fair, I didn't want to see the Dark Phoenix trilogy. But that's just me.
I didn't want to see the Foxmen Dark Phoenix trilogy. Because do we really need to let you fuck that up one more time?
Maybe it's just me, but I have never liked the whole Dark Phoenix saga story. I think it's really stupid that this alien bird entity just comes and possesses this powerful psychic for no real apparent reason. Because, Firebird.
Firebird!
Looks cool.
She looks fucking cool. Oh my god.
She can wear the skimpy outfit and be evil.
Yeah. She's like a redhead who's wearing all red except for these like thigh-high like bright yellow boots.
Hat.
And it's going to be like skin tight and have like bird right across the boobs. And
because she's
evil. God, she's evil and hot.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want to do to Jean Grey.
Yeah.
What?
I just think there's a lot better storylines in the Marvel universe and the X-Men universe than the alien bird thing.
The Dark Phoenix has a ton of potential, but there is a storyline that has actually way more potential. Actually, probably just as much potential as anything having to do with the Skrulls in the MCU. And I am talking about the Phalanx. Imagine for a moment this techno-organic thing has come to your Earth and has decided to both take over and copy people at the same time.
So, Brainiac?
Imagine Brainiac, but without the bright green douche, and it's just all of it's all of his gadgets working on their own.
So, like the Bruce Timm version of Brainiac.
Yes, Bruce Timm.
Yeah.
When in doubt, Bruce Timm.
Yeah. Unless you're going to have explicitly sexual content for no reason.
In which case, not Bruce Timm.
No.
Come on,
Anybody else.
guys? He's like mixing my feelings. Don't do that. I think the thing to watch out for in any case having to do with these, because on Fox they do still have a television show that's loosely connected to the X-Men universe called The Gifted. It's not terrible, but it's not great. I mean, a lot of people are doing...
How do you feel about potentially losing Legion? I know you enjoyed the show.
It was so good.
Yeah.
The thing that I noticed about Fox in its twilight... I'm going to call this the twilight era of the Fox's hold on the X-Men, is that they started to get a lot more experimental because yes, hot. Because things like Deadpool actually fucking worked. Like, once they figured out that, like, not only can we do rated R shit, we can get weird. We can get real fucking weird.
Done.
Done. Legion. It's like, oh, you mean we have this guy who has access to a ton of different powers and also has a few different mental disorders? Sold. We could literally make any kind of show we want. It's like, it is a perfect setup. But then we have things like The Gifted, where it's all about you remember that team that you keep going to the movies for? Oh yeah, this show's about everyone else.
When they're emo.
It's like, these two factions keep fighting, and we have all these people getting caught in the crossfire, and we don't even do like robot sentinels anymore. We have this thing called Sentinel Services, where it's just SWAT team people. And now this time we have Morlocks too, because pretty people get to be on the top and ugly people get to be on the bottom. What the fuck? Guys.
It's a very emo show.
Yes, it is. And it's like the storytelling could be so much more engaging had it branched out from the whole. It's like, we have to hide who we are, blah, blah, blah. You know the thing that made X-Men great? The moments in between having to do all these fights and shit, where you got to see them for the people that they were. Logan being a womanizing, cigar-smoking asshole. Cyclops being the overprotective, overly calculating prick who has control issues.
It's funny you say Logan's the womanizer. 'Cause I think Cyclops is the womanizer. Okay. Whereas Logan's the one that gets way in too deep and then falls in love with every single one till they die in some tragic fashion or form.
Oh my God.
It's not that he's a womanizer. It's that everybody dies around him.
That's true.
Whereas Scott just fucks anything with boobs.
He fucks any hot thing with boobs. It's like, okay, here's who he's had. And these are all top tier, mind you.
I'm glad you think so.
Jean Grey, who has been drawn as like the hottest redhead you will ever find in your life. Emma Frost, hottest blonde who dresses hotter than any woman you will ever find in your life.
I don't know if hot's the right word. Maybe naked. Just naked.
And when he's not around with those ladies, you'll find like the occasional issue where he's not with this girl, or there's some girl trying to look like his current girl who gets with him, and it's like, oh, it's some other girl who's also still hot even when they're not looking like your already hot girlfriend. goddamn Cyclops.
I think he's the womanizer. in
He's
this
actually
one.
the. Oh my
Yeah.
God, he's the one.
Yeah.
The thing that
Which
would
is
have.
why I hate him. 'Cause he's a douche.
The thing that would have made sense for Wolverine, they actually ended up giving to Cyclops over time. What the fuck? Okay. And then we have characters like Beast, who, when we're not doing the whole, you pretty people get to look however you want, I'm stuck looking like a beast, is like, oh, yeah, wherever I go, I'm usually smartest person in the room. Until Reed Richards gets like anywhere within like 500 feet. Nightcrawler, who's like the one dealing with his faith all the time, devout Catholic, even though he looks like
A demon.
a stereotypical image of a demon.
Yeah.
Angel, who's the
Most useless member of the X-Men.
he's
I can fly. Yeah, like half of us can fly, and we don't have vulnerable, fragile bird wings that we have to protect to keep ourselves in the air.
and he didn't for very long either. Thanks, Apocalypse.
Angel sucks.
I lost my wings. I will give you better ones. and then we have Magneto, who hilariously is the Jew who's doing his best Adolf Hitler impersonation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we are the genetically superior. We are here to replace you. Lie down and rot.
Follow me because I experienced racism. I was in a concentration camp. But you know what? Fuck all these guys.
Watch me.
All these norms.
Like, follow me because I experienced racism. What are you doing? I'm enacting racism. Wait, what? Hold. We thought you had the moral high ground. Fuck moral high ground. I'm the strongest.
Don't you see my helmet? I'm clearly evil.
My helmet and my cape. Lie down and rot, normies.
So yeah, we got those on the horizon to look forward to.
Or do we?
Now, this last one's a really interesting one. Kind of the first wrinkle that Marvel has had. For those who missed it, James Gunn, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and 2, had kind of a rough falling out with Marvel proper and Disney, as it were, because they discovered some of these...
like a decade-old tweets.
Yeah, really, like, tone-deaf, really not funny, awkward, like, pedophilia jokes that he had posted online.
I mean, they were fucking bad.
Like, real bad. And I get it, but they're pretty old, and he's obviously been successful for you in many other ways, and he, you know...
The thing is, he came from the Tromaverse, or things like not Swamp Thing, Toxic Avenger, and Tromeo and Juliet, all of which were very crude, coarse, gross.
Yeah.
It was like they knew who they hired when they hired him on.
He's notoriously a dark humor type of person.
Yeah.
I get it. I sympathize with both their perspectives, but the kind of falling out that happened because the higher ups kind of got wind of these tweets and the social media postings, you know, these bad jokes, they dropped him from the project entirely. And because of that, several of the actors kind of protested, the biggest of which is Dave Bautista, who completely dropped out of the project if James Gunn was out, which he is.
Yeah.
And both James Gunn and Bautista have interestingly kind of jumped ship to the other superhero universe, the obviously lesser of the two right now.
Yeah. This is
and jumping into the current DC universe, which I'm very saddened by, because I think Dave Bautista and James Gunn have better options than Suicide Squad 2.
It's like
building off what is possibly the worst movie ever made. And I don't mean like awful, like The Room awful. I mean awful awful. Like there is no entertainment to be gleaned from this movie outside of Captain Boomerang, of course. But it's. I think that they're going to do a decent enough job, but I think that the first movie was so bad, and this universe is so bad in its current state that if they're not doing a reboot Suicide Squad movie, it's a waste of their fucking time.
Yeah,
So,
about that.
I get that they're kind of lashing out at their ex-girlfriend by doing this, but you probably shouldn't jump into the first cum dumpster you see.
Who?
That's my way of. That's my James Gunn way of phrasing it.
Words to live by.
So
I think that there is actually a silver lining here. They're at the bottom. Suicide Squad was the worst. They could only go up from here.
you would think so, but I think it's just career suicide at this point.
While that is very possible.
Unless somebody can convince DC to let them reboot.
Yeah, it's very possible. Here's the thing. The wonderful thing about the Suicide Squad is that because of the very nature of the makeup of the squad, they could literally get an entirely new group of villains to do this with.
They could.
Yeah.
They won't. But they could.
I'm just saying, Dave Bautista as a for real Bane.
I mean, Batista's going to be a great addition no matter what he does. The problem is he's going to be the only good thing in this movie that James Gunn is going to desperately try to keep afloat with very few tools available to him. So, best of luck.
Best of luck.
I don't think it's going to happen. And other DC movie news, we forgot to mention the Joker movie. Not the current universe Joker movie with what's his name, Metal Teeth.
Oh, fucking Jared Leto.
Jared Leto. It's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the worst. Oh my god. Oh my god.
He sounds like a dying goose. Someone please kill him for me.
Yeah, it's so bad. But there's a new kind of completely separate Joker movie coming out, being was it Tarantino? That's
Scorsese.
Scorsese, thank you. Martin Scorsese is producing it.
He's
Now,
producing.
It was originally billed as being directed by him, but then he very quickly said, "Oh no, I'm just producing it."
Yes,
So-
that's the much safer option.
But
for
it
him.
seems like a very kind of down to earth version of Joker, a very kind of almost Heath Ledger-esque, but definitely different.
I will say this about Joaquin Phoenix as Joker. While he doesn't have the comics accurate makeup going on,
Yeah, his coat is like red. And,
yeah,
so
it's like he has a big red mouth all over him.
It's a very different look from any Jokers we've seen before.
That being said, the rest of his getup and outfit, when he goes full Joker, spot on, top fucking notch.
Yeah,
I am weirdly excited for a Joker movie.
Yeah, me too. I'm wondering how much they're going to take from the Joker comic.
Yeah.
I think it was it Brian Azzarello? I think that made that one.
Oh, yeah.
But that one was a really cool book that was from the point of view of one of his henchmen,
Bob.
Yeah, and Joker gets out of prison, and they go around doing gangster shit. He's just basically a regular gangster, but with a little bit of a crazy edge to him, more so than your typical gangster. And that he dresses like a clown and fucking murders people with knives, and
He's a gangster with a shtick.
and is completely unpredictable. And it's very enjoyable, and it has a very dark ending, as you expect from a comic, called Joker.
Yeah,
and
as it should.
I'm hoping that this movie kind of takes a little bit of influence from that, and I hope that it's good, and that it's, if it is good, successful. for being good, and that we
Yeah.
can kind of build from that instead of what we're currently building on and kind of forcing into the popular media.
Yeah.
And if it's just a completely standalone but enjoyable film, I'm all about that too, because that opens the door for future projects that don't have to be tied into this terrible universe.
Elseworlds.
And don't have to necessarily, be building a universe, after it that kind of takes away from the focus of the movie.
I have a feeling that WB and DC are gearing themselves up for more Elseworlds action, if not for the sole reason that, the entire Arrowverse is about to do an Elseworlds, crossover thing, across, I think, 3 of their shows.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have Legends of Tomorrow getting into it because Legends of Tomorrow has John Constantine.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They're having all of the fun.
Which sucks, because Constantine needs his own show that's not in this weird future universe thing. It sucks that he has to be the star of this ridiculous show that is barely being kept afloat, He deserves his own show again.
Yes, he does.
Fucking NBC. I'm looking at you.
He's amazing. He needs his own show, but I will watch the shit out of Legends of Tomorrow for now.
Yeah, Ryan is so good in the role. He's so damn good.
To give you a taste of the silly bullshit that they've had him deal with, the first thing that they've had him do in the first episode is deal with a killer unicorn. Now, mind you, this allows Constantine to be instead of getting super dark into the angels and the demons and all this bullshit, we let him deal with other supernatural threats throughout time.
My fanboy heart can only take so much, DC. Can you please just give me a leg to stand on? Please?
I mean, it was kind of a joke to start with, but having everyone kind of get used to having Constantine on board and having him be himself, which is the drunken asshole with the chip on his shoulder, but who's also kind of, for lack of a better phrase, devil may care about his own life.
Sorry, folks. Still shaking off a little bit of the rust. It's been a while since I've done this. Well, as I said, this would normally be the part of the show where we go into some topics of your choosing about the world of comic books and have a well-thought-out debate or discussion about things we're interested in. But because we had to catch up on so much of the news, we're just going to leave it as is for now. Once again, expect kind of a Stan Lee in memoriam episode pretty soon here. We got some reviews we got to knock out, and then obviously we got next week's episode to take care of. Please bear with us as we kind of shake off the rust a little bit, get everything set up again, kind of redecorate the new studio area. We don't have the nice brick wall anymore.
Yeah.
Instead, we got this kind of weird molded thing going on with my apartment here. So please look forward to that. If you have any requests or anything you think we should look into doing in the future, or anything like that, any correspondence you want to have with us, be sure to reach out to us. We're on Twitter at HTBvids, at HTBvids. Again, shaking off the rust.
Yep.
Or on Facebook /HitTheBooks. You can always go on our website. There's a contact us page there. It directs us straight to the podcast email. If you want to look us up there, we're on all of your popular podcasting networks. We're probably going to get on a few more here this season.
Oh, yeah.
And get everything taken care of. It's just a matter of the analytical side, what they require of us, what we require of them to get everything on there. So please look forward to that. You have anything to add before we wrap this up?
No, I think that's going to be it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, folks, that wraps up another mediocre edition of Hit the Books podcast.
Mediocre.
Thank you all for sticking with us. If you like what you hear, be sure to hit like and subscribe on this episode and follow us on your podcast services and social networks of choice. Again, we're on Twitter at HTBVids. We're on Facebook at /HitTheBooks. Our website is htbvids.com. I've been your host, Chris Holcomb.
And I'm Emery Saunders.
Thank you for watching. We will see you next week.
Feliz Navidad.
Do, 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 do.
Feliz Navidad.
Do, 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 do.
Feliz Navidad. I don't know the rest or any Spanish.
Do, 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 do. See you, folks.
See ya.